Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, Danny Etling. At running back, Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas, and Travis Homer. At wide receiver, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, who's just now blessed with a brand new contract extension. Dwayne Eskridge, who they took in the second round at 5'9", 190 pounds, but runs a 4.38. Obviously, this team's doing something what they want to do. We kind of talked about it earlier. Speed on the outside. Freddie Swain, Penny Hart, Darvin Kidsey, nothing there. Tight end, they signed Gerald Everett. They have Will Disley and Kobe Parkinson. And this is a team that really has an O-line that's no good. It's part of Russell Wilson's problem. The only player they added is the guard Gabe Jackson from the Raiders, who's just okay. So hopefully the middle is a little bit better because their tackles are pretty solid there.
Yeah, Dwayne Brown's pretty good.
Brian Schottenheimer is out at OC, and now they're bringing Shane Waldron as OC, who was the Rams passing game coordinator the past 3 years and was actually the tight end coach when they signed Gerald Everett. So when we look at Russell Wilson, who's another high-end dynasty quarterback who I have no shares, I never have, weeks 1 through 9 last year was an MVP candidate, right? People were talking about Russell Wilson like he's the go. Weeks 1 through 9, Russell Wilson was quarterback 3 overall. And then, like Pete Carroll always does, the second half of the season, he starts to get away from the pass and starts to run the ball more. Right. Weeks 10 through 17, Russell Wilson was QB 12 overall. So still a QB1, not as bad as the Kyler Murray stats here, but he didn't fall back as far either. As they started to run the ball a little bit more. And, you know what I mean? This is somebody that, even at QB 12, he was within 6 points of the next 3. So Russell Wilson easily, because that second half been quarterback 16.
Sure.
Baker had 1 point difference. That's it. Less than 1 point difference than Russell. And the other ones were Phillip Rivers and Cam Newton. So what do you think about Russell Wilson as a dynasty quarterback? He has DK Metcalf. They lock up Tyler Lockett. And now they bring up Dwayne Eskridge, who, even though Dwayne Eskridge played the slot in college, that's Tyler Lockett's role. They signed an extension. Sure. He's going to be on the outside. So, you know, for a team that says we want to run the ball more, they have a lot of speed on the outside. What do you think about Russell Wilson here as a dynasty quarterback? Where do you view him? Is he right around that 6-7 range?
Right around there. He's really interesting because you mentioned the stats fell off over the second half of the season. Then all we hear all off season is we have to run the football more. That's all we've heard from Pete Carroll, is that we have to run the football more. But all of that being said, that's been their MO, basically Russell Wilson's entire career for the most part. Russell Wilson's worst season since his sophomore campaign, QB 11.
Yeah,
that's his absolute worst. And he's had several top 3 finishes as well as number 1 overall quarterback. So even on teams that are run first teams, he can still make it happen. He's still
Tannehill's a prime example.
Exactly. He's a fantastic player, and he's incredibly efficient with the football. If this line takes a step forward at all, which was one of his biggest Achilles heels over the course of the season, was just poor offensive line play, he could easily have another top 5 finish, despite it not making sense on paper, not having the number of attempts, he still is able to be that efficient with the football and make enough plays for it to still happen. So I think it's actually gone to the point where he was kind of overrated for a little bit.
Underrated.
And now he's kind of almost underrated because the narrative, the feeling, everything around Russell is kind of like, oh, it's a run first team. He's getting older. And
you should be efficient about that too. Be like, efficient. Like efficient. Efficient. Oh, it says another bad word. Efficient. If you said it like that, efficient, but you kind of sound out different. It's kind of like you're saying some naughty stuff. Don't be naughty.
Yeah, this is the Nerd Herd episode.
I'm gonna say it out loud.
You will. So I've gone from being the guy that with you I didn't have any shares, and in 2 startups this year I actually took Russell Wilson, and it was kind of surprising. And I ended up where he becomes a value is he gets questioned right around do you want him or do you want Lamar Jackson? Do you want him? Do you want Joe Burrow? Do you want him? Like, that's kind of the range that he's in. And so I ended up going with him over Lamar.
Super safe.
It's super safe. And, you know, him and Joe Burrow's really tough. I I don't know.
That is tough.
I don't know where I would go with him, but that's kind of the Trevor Lawrence. Do you want him or Trevor Lawrence?
Oh, Trevor Lawrence.
Do you want,
super flex? I'm still taking. I got to go for the goatness. You know what I mean? I got to take the hot. Like when a player like that's on the board, like you got to take the risk. You got to go for that biscuit. You know what I mean? You're right. Russell Wilson's probably the most undervalued super flex quarterbacks
because he's safe.
I think more so in a startup, not in like trade.
Oh, sure. You're going to still have to pay a stupid amount, but he falls to the second round in a lot of super flex.
In a startup, Russell Wilson, I don't hate to say it, but like he's probably the best value in his Dynasty super flex startup. Hey, let's start a Dynasty super flex startup. Not you guys.
I can't be in it.
Not if you listen to the show, so don't tweet at me. I'll find some guys.
We'll find some random people that don't.
Hey, you listen
to
to my podcast? No? You want to do a starting super flex start? I can't even say the words.
I'm going to take the 1-8 and make sure that I get Russell Wilson in a second.
So, I mean, we mentioned Eskridge comes in. I mean, Eskridge is locked in right now as the number 3 receiver because they don't have anybody else there, essentially.
They really don't.
So, I mean, he's going to replace David Moore. David Moore saw 47 targets last year. But so he could probably look at that role because it said Tyler Lockett's going to be playing the slot. But he had the speed outside. And they mentioned Tyler Lockett, signed him up to a big new deal. And he's coming off 132 target, 100 reception season with 1,054 yards with 10 touchdowns. Now, to be fair, he scored 6 of those touchdowns in like 2 games. So those numbers are
very hit and miss. That middle of the season was like a cavern.
So he finished as wide receiver 19 in PPR. And he's just been what's nice about Tyler Lockett is, even though he's a roller coaster player, he's been a consistent wide receiver 2 for 3 years straight.
Yeah.
Just finishing in there year in, year out. DK Metcalf obviously finishes a top 5 player at wide receiver. And with Russell Wilson, even though they say they want to run the ball more, with this new offensive coordinator too, I still think they're going to throw the ball early. And I think DK Metcalf is still going to be a top 8 fantasy football wide receiver.
It's tough to imagine that he isn't. He's just such a physical specimen, and we've seen over the past 2 years him just beat up on a lot of these smaller corners, or guys think that they can run with him and they just can't. He's just so fast. So there's only a few players in the league that can really play with him. Jalen Ramsey in his division is one of them. Those are fun matchups to see the two of them go head to head. But overall, he's going to have another monster year. He's locked and loaded for a top 10, top 8 type of season at wide receiver. Lockett's the toughest one because you're right. Year in and year out, the numbers end up being there. But it's so hard to start him because you don't know which week it is.
That's why you got to start him every week. That's why he's a frustrating player. But he's going to give you tough. He's going to single-handedly win you games.
I feel great if he's my wide receiver 3.
Oh,
I'm terrified if he's my wide receiver 2.
If you're a championship caliber team and Tyler Lockett's your wide receiver 2,
you're not a championship team.
You're not really a championship caliber team. Like, he's got to be your wide receiver 3. Every team,
and hopefully 4. Hopefully he's in the flex.
Every team I own Lockett in, he's my wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a player that we were talking about trading for a couple of years ago. That's how I got a lot of my Lockett shares there. But I think, talk about the receivers, it's pretty set.
Yep.
DK, Lockett, Eskridge. They bring Gerald Everton. The Seahawks have shown success at times with the tight end position. A guy like Will Disley last year started off super hot before he got hurt.
I kind of, this is embarrassing to say, but I kind of forgot about Will Disley. Are we worried at all that Will Disley cuts into Gerald Everett's value?
Why are you dissing Disley?
I'm not trying to diss him. I forgot him.
Oh, what is he,
being
Dre?
very forgetful.
Dr. Dre out here? Forgetting about him?
Don't forget about Dre.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he does cut up into a little bit, but I mean, it's a team that could run a little bit more 12 personnel probably because most of the NFL is doing to try to find success. So him and Everett could be on the field, which obviously they hurted each other. But Disley does cut into that Everett hyper a little bit because when Disley's on the field and he's still super young, he's only like 26 years old. He produces. He's a good athlete.
He's been very good. So I did forget about him, which I'm. It's making me a little bit more nervous for Gerald Everett in like redraft leagues. In Dynasty, his values, it is what it is.
Tyler Higbee's the value. Everett's he's just a guy. You could do better at tight end. Then obviously at running back, they have your guy in DJ Dallas. He's worth absolutely nothing whatsoever. Chris Carson is the value here. A guy who averaged 5 yards per carry last year and 3 receptions a game. They do have Rashad Penny coming back after his ACL tear.
I can't even look at him right now.
That's fine. I don't need you.
I'll
talk to my elf. Penny, who tore his ACL last year, but he averaged 5.7 yards per carry in 2019. So he's somebody who's a former first-round pick who they're not picking up a fifth-year option on. So it's going to be the Rashad Penny, Chris Carson show. Travis Homer, he can go home.
All right. So what week are both those guys injured?
Chris Carson's injured week 7.
Okay.
And Rashad Penny then picks up the slack, and he's a league winner.
Penny's the league winner?
Unless Carson comes back. Carson's lock him in as a running back too. He's a really good value for contender.
He's very underrated.
Hopefully you can buy him for a second round pick.
Here's what I'll say. DJ Dallas is still at least interesting. I agree. He's never going to be. Stop. You stop it, Jared.
You stop collaborating and listen.
It's the Alex Collins show after that.
Here's why he's interesting.
Is the elf thing
he is
still valuable?
He is still the best receiving running back on this team. Is he not? Name one player on the team with better hands than DJ Dallas.
Chris Carson's got pretty good hands.
No. Get out of here with that.
He's efficient.
He's not better. He is not better. So that's why I'm saying
better chance to catch the ball, though, which is even better than having better hands.
All I'm saying is,
listen, I have better hands than Jordan Howard. Who's got the better opportunity to score more fantasy points?
Do you have better hands than Jordan Howard?
Oh, yeah. Dude, this elf over here is made of, I don't know what it's made of, but it's got better hands than Jordan Howard.
All I'm saying is, I'm not throwing him away. I'm not cutting DJ Dallas on my teams. If I have Chris Carson, I would still like to have DJ Dallas.
Throwing away and just falls by the wayside.
I'm not doing it.
Listen, again, DJ Dallas, great guy. Did our
Don't talk
show.
crap about him.
Big fan. I just think for
Not
fantasy
big
football, not a lot of upside there. That's all. Solid. And hey,
Fine.
love to have DJ Dallas on my NFL roster as my running back 3. But for fantasy football opportunities, I mean, he's literally droppable off your roster.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
I think you stash him on your.
Yes, you absolutely
taxi
stash
squad
him
still.
with 2.
Oh yeah, the taxi squad still. Yeah.
On teams that the 2 running backs
He's not
ahead of him
eligible anymore.
have been injured every single season. I'm absolutely still holding on to him.